Today's stream is about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start.
Hello, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Geeking Out with, and today we got X-Raym in the house, Raymond.
Hi everyone.
How's it going, Raymond?
Hello.
I'm going fine. I'm a bit under pressure because I will have to speak English for a certain amount of time, and nobody knows how it will go.
Yeah, recently I was on vacation for a week and I came back and I of course didn't speak English for a whole week, and on my first stream I was stumbling on the words. It's difficult. People don't realize that.
I trust you on that.
But your English sounds perfect to me. Of course, you know, in the forums, you're always speaking English.
Yes.
That's all perfect. But yeah, I think written and spoken English is like, you know, they're two different monsters for sure.
Oh yes, on the forum it's basically texting, and I can edit my words if they are wrong. So that's why maybe all my posts have a modified date. It's because I edit the post at least 3 or 4 times because there is a typos and English errors. But I think I will. It will be fine. I'm ready. I practiced all week.
And if you're just joining us, of course, feel free to ask any questions that you want. We have some questions that we have prepared, but we always have a question that we start with everybody, more or less, and that is, how did you get into coding, and like what was your kind of beginning of your journey? Are you formally educated, and how did you get into Reaper?
Okay, so I think that we have a bit of time to elaborate, so it will be the long story.
Sure, yeah.
I started to make my own internet website in 2003. I don't remember how old I was. I think I was 15, but it wasn't yet coding, because at the time there was some popular "what you see is what you get" editor. But I get frustrated quite quickly with the code it output, because there was bug everywhere. So I started to learn HTML. I think it was in 2005. So 2 or 3 years later, I started to practice a bit. But I think I had to wait another year before really reading a book about HTML and CSS and remake the website from scratch. And
was it Dreamweaver? Did you use Dreamweaver?
It was a Dreamweaver, yes.
Oh boy, I do have good memories of using Dreamweaver. Many people started that way. Do they still make that? I bet that they do.
I have bad memories of me using Dreamweaver. Not because I don't remember well, but because it wasn't a good, unpleasing memory. Everything was so complex to do some fundamental layouts that in the end, I found that coding in HTML directly was really simpler than having to learn a software to help you to code. Because when you write your own code, you can strip down everything that isn't needed, and every line you put, you have to understand it. So in the end, it was really simpler to just learn to code. But this is not strictly programming with algorithm. It's just data structure, and it is complex, but it is code in the end. I use code editor to write instructions. Okay. Then I started to start a bit of JavaScript because in After Effects you can write expressions, and I made a lot of videos, and I had to randomize parameters or link parameters between them. So it was basic JavaScript, essentially some math function, but with trials and errors, I successfully made what I wanted at the time. But flash forward a bit. In 2013, I wanted to update my website to something a bit more complex, which would have a blog section on several categories, etc., etc. So I found WordPress CMS, and to customize it, you have to learn more programming. So you have to learn PHP and JavaScript, etc. So in 2014, to enhance my capability to customize my WordPress website, I started to learn coding on the Codecademy website.
Cool.
And I found that it was really fun. So I took the PHP class, the JavaScript class, the jQuery class, the HTML class, and about every course that they had at the time, also the Python class. And I dig this a whole summer, and it has a whole system of gamification with a reward when you have successfully passed an exercise. And I am proud because I have a rare achievement, which is doing more than 75 achievements in one day, more 75 exercises in one day.
That's an obsession,
I was
man.
just I was just spending all my day on this. And this is where real programming started for me. It is with this website. If you don't know Codecademy, it is a website to learn how to code, and there is every theoretical aspect of coding is presenting in a small paragraph, and you have an exercise which is associated to it. So it's really interactive. So for example, there will be a small paragraph that will say, this is a variable in JavaScript. This is how you associate a value. Exercise, associate the value 14 to a variable name, number, etc. And you have to practice, and the site is able to autocorrect or make suggestion if you are wrong. So it was a really, really fun way to learn. So this is coding, but this is not real scripting yet.
Mhm.
So the thing hasn't grow as we know. So it was in late 2014. I was working on a project of mine, which is an audio fiction, and I wanted to pan a lot of audio items to simulate a complex ambience.
Is this for Alien 2437?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
nice.
exactly. We will speak about that a bit later. But yes, it was for that. In the scene, there is a factory to make human clones, and I had a lot of sounds to make the ambience, some breathing sounds, some machinery, etc. There was 200 or 300 items, and I wanted to pan that randomly, so that some audio are on the left, some are on the right for every items. And I asked a feature request on the forum for this feature, which is a bit specific, but why not? I didn't had a lot of posts on the Reaper forum at that time, because I was only a Reaper user for 1 year, if I remember well. And it was a SPK 77 which answered me 1 hour later with a bit of code, which basically do what I needed. So I was kind of shocked, because I not only I learned that we can program in Reaper, but that we can solve the problem that I faced with it was something like 10 lines of code. And
and back then it was UEL2, right? It wasn't Lua.
It was EEL at the time. Yeah. And so I decided to push the thing a bit later, and I asked SPK 77 if we can make a more clever randomization algorithm based on a Gaussian distribution. And he made me something in 1 day, so I was seduced. And my first ReaScript came just after I just changed maybe 3 lines of code, so that it doesn't change panoramization, but pitch instead.
Nice.
It was just about changing the limit of the randomizations and the name of the parameter, which is changed in the object. And all started from there. And so this is my journey, at least the start of my journey into coding.
Very cool. Shout out to SPK 77.
Yes, thank you. he has created a monster.
Yeah,
but it's
fine. Somebody asked, this is somewhat related, I guess, to what we're talking about, but I guess so you answered that. Somebody asked, what was your first script? So it was randomizing the pitch of items.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, it was that. And after that, I started to make scripts from scratch, which were less complex, really basic stuff like reset snap offset position. So it's basically just a loop in a selected object on the set snap offset property to 0. And it is handy to be able to solve solution like that. And practicing ReaScript this way really push my programming understanding a lot further, and it even helps in other domain. I like in PHP for WordPress. It just starting to make a lot more sense in a way. And yes.
How easy / difficult was this transition from web technologies to scripting a digital audio workstation? Because some of the language is similar, but most of it is not, and it's a completely different
Yes.
domain and thought process that goes into that. So how was the transition in terms of like things you had to learn and difficulties you had along the way?
Yes, it is very, very different because HTML is basically put data into some semantic structure. So you have data to format, but you are not manipulating objects. You are just formatting text on the images, things like that. CSS is just the layout of this data. And for the JavaScript part of the web, it's mostly based on interaction, like event-based with click on buttons and things like that. And there is not a lot of maths in there. It's often just yes, event and some items property, like if you click on this button, hide these things. But it's not. It's very, very different. In Reaper, I have to learn a lot more concepts, but in the end, it was handy for web as well. Another thing is that web is complex because not every code is rendered the same. It depends on the different browser. It depends on the different OS, operating system. But scripting in Reaper is very cross-platform friendly. It is rare that we have to write if macOS code, for example. Yes, it's very different. The other big thing is that basically when you learn Reaper scripting, there is not a lot of language complexity to learn, but there is a lot of Reaper ReaScript function to learn. So it's less about learning all we can do with Lua. It's more about learning all we can do with ReaScript API, and this is different than learning for the web, obviously, because yes.
Yeah, on your website, you do have a list of things that cannot be done with Reaper scripts, so that potential clients don't even contact you trying to ask for those things. So what's like this one thing that you really would like Reaper to do, but it's not possible to do with scripts, and it's just impossible? You have to wait for the developers. What is this? If you could change one thing about Reaper, what would it be?
Okay. You have to understand that I don't like an open problem. So I wrote I don't know how many scripts, maybe 700.
I was just trying to count how many of your scripts I have. I think it's 700. Yeah. 700.
Yeah, I think there is 400 on my free RIA pack, on maybe just as many on my premium on the private GitHub Git repository. So things that cannot be done with scripting, I often have some kind of workaround prototype, and in the end, it works okay. But let me think about that, because if Cocos is watching, I only have one shot to express my most fundamental needs. There was some things about track sticking. You know, the ability to make some track always visible on the arrange view, even if you scroll, because it can help to align items which are far apart. It can help to have a quick access to the mute button of a group track, for example, despite the fact that you have scrolled down the list of tracks. This can't be scripted, and maybe there is some discussion to have about how to make this right, but yes, I made some kind of workaround around this where I build some kind of a script which has a GUI, which have a waveform display of all the items from a set of tracks, which is chosen by the user. But yes, it's not the same because you can't move items, you can't edit things like that.
And is that view aligned with the other tracks, like you mentioned, how you'd sometimes... Yes. And this is something that I ran into, where I want to align my vocals to my guitars, but they are far apart in the project.
Yes.
So how do you align that?
There is a bit of code which is able to determine the width of the track control panels, and a bit of code to determine the width of the Reaper clients, the window, and it's just a subtraction to get the arrange view size based on the screen. It uses some GS ReaScript API function. But
to me, that API feels like superpowers.
Yes, it really changed a lot of things. But I'm not sure that this track sticking feature would be the one feature I would choose if I have to choose one. But let's keep this question in mind, and maybe we will come back to this later.
No, you only have one shot.
Yes.
You talked about premium scripts, and I saw also Tower Studio in the chat is asking. I was I was wondering something, but I guess first his question, like, how are your premium and free scripts different, and like, how do you decide what kind of becomes premium? Is it when somebody like kind of orders it that it becomes premium, or yeah, how does that work?
Okay, so what happened is that I made a lot of script before starting considering earning money from this. But I had to admit that it was really like a full-time job. So in the end, I didn't earn any money in any other way. So I had to, eat and grow and things like that. And you can't rely on donation for this because the community is too small. I mean, there is a lot of people which are who are making sound on the computer, okay, but only a subset of this uses Reaper, but only a subset of this know that we can customize it with SWS extension, for example, and only a subset of this know that ReaScript is a thing. It took me 1 year to figure out that we can do such things, and there is even a subset after that, which are who are the people who are ready to test things. Okay, so I was solving a lot of very user-specific issue on the forum, and at some point it wasn't just utility feature which can benefit everyone. It was things very specific to certain projects and sometimes to professional projects. So I decided to offer this as a development service instead, because this will be used on commercial project to earn money, and I spend time on this, and I was basically not earning money. So and it kind of the way I choose which script goes free, which goes premium, it kind of stays the same. I mean, if I made a script which can benefit to anyone because it solves a basic feature or a missing button, something like that, I will share it for free for sure. If I make a script which is so simple that any scripter can reverse engineering reverse engineer it in in 10 minutes, I will share it for free for sure. If the script is specific, if it is too specific to be released for free, I will keep this as premium, but I don't release it automatically. I want to make some kind of pack which are based around some thematic, like virtual instrument building or things like that. And I think I have almost 200 scripts which are not even released, maybe 300, I don't know. Wow. Sometimes I make script for myself which solve very complex and specific issue, but I don't feel like it will help anyone else. For example, we were speaking about audio fiction, and I made a script which is able to parse the screenplay with the dialogue lines and to put the audio items on the timeline based on the screenplay.
Wow, that's amazing.
So it's so I mean it's 1 week of work done in less than 20 milliseconds. But you know, I don't think it can help anyone else than me, because you have to use this screenplay format, and you have to name the items in a certain way. So I didn't release it so far. I think that it will be a next step for me right now to start releasing this kind of hidden gems, because sometimes I think I have released something and I didn't, despite the fact it can be useful. For example, I realized that I didn't make public a script which is able to do some kind of search replace on audio file path source. And it's ready. It is already in used for the client who asked me that. So I know it is working and it isn't released. But when you release a script publicly, free or premium, it requires a lot of extra work. You have to do some documentation, you have to do some screenshots, and you have to allow the user to customize it. And mostly you have to allow the user to use it in a wrong way without opening error messages. You know, you have to. It requires more strict coding that if it was just for me in the moment. Voilà.
And how good is this business of selling scripts? Is this your main job today?
It is my main source of income, but it doesn't make you rich. I have to admit that, because there is a lot of variation in demands. There is months where there is not a lot of demands, and there is other when there is demands. On my most what is the word for that? I don't have the English words for that, but my most important client is Mike at Sondiron, and they sponsor months of development of scripting. So basically, we can say that if I'm able to buy some food, it's thanks to Sondiron. And there is also VJ from the Audioville who asked me a lot of scripts, and yes, so that's why sponsoring custom script development is important, is because it allows me to spend also more time on my free resources. There is a lot of things I continue to share for free, but like my ReaScript documentation behind me, which I think almost every scripter knows about. I have some free a free Reaper theme also on the tutorials and things like that. So yes, I'm not sure how much longer I can continue relying only on ReaScripting development, but we will see how far you can push me.
It's probably a really great way also, I guess, to like, you have this vast portfolio of your work that, and I'm sure people are out there kind of headhunting for people like you. And I think, I mean, anybody in the community would be like, X-Raym, yes, hire that man. Give him all the money.
There is a certain thing about selling script premium, is that because it is a professional service, business company are more reassured because they pay you for something which will be done. It's not as if you were asking on the forum and you don't know where you will have an answer, or if you will have an answer. And if the scripter which may solve your issue will still be there to solve unpredictable issue which comes down the line, or if he can continue to develop the script if it needs to scale to some extra features. So I think being able to make contract is satisfying for business company rather than relying on the forum directly. They prefer contact me and they have an answer usually in 2 hours. So I have a lot of emails about how fast my support is, but it's emails are everywhere with a smartphone.
And you're a completely one-person operation. You don't have like somebody kind of helping you with support, maybe, or bug fixes.
It's a one-man company.
Cool, very nice.
How do you even find these clients? Do they find you because of the forum in your scripts, or do you have a connection of people that you get to?
I will answer you, but first I will just add an extra precision about the one-man thing. We are a community of scripters, so despite the fact I am alone to script my own, to make my own code, I have a lot of discussion with a lot of different scripters which help me solve particular cases, and I help them solve particular cases in return, of course. And I think mostly Christian Cephilion from ReaPack. I owe him a lot of things because he has a really deep knowledge of computer science. on programming in general. So he often helped me solve cases, for Mac compatibility. Sometimes there is issue, and things. He helped me a lot, and he made Repack, and Repack changed everything for custom script development, because it makes it is professional to share scripts via Repack.
Right.
A business company can share the link on all the team around the world with, and update it just extension Repack sync. So a big thank to Christian, and I hope you will you will invite him soon.
Absolutely, yeah. We would love to have Christian, aka Cphilian, on here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will answer the Leandro question. So basically, it was how client find me. I have to admit that I am not on popular social media, social network. I don't have a Facebook account. I don't have a Twitter or Instagram, not even a TikTok. Despite the fact I know everyone wants me to have a TikTok, but maybe not for ReaScript. I don't think it is the place for coding. So people usually find me because they see me talking on the Reaper forum. Of course, I have 800 posts on the Reaper forum, so I have a certain visibility on the.
One quick thing, sorry to cut you off, Raymond. Because we're using Zoom, we have to dip out for a second and come back online, because free Zoom is only for a few minutes. So everybody just stay tuned for like 30 seconds. We'll be right back.
Okay, so let's restart from there. So Reaper forum definitely helps, either because people see my posts, my threads, or either because I answer to them directly. It's often happened that they ask a question publicly and I am here to answer. So contact is made. I guess a bit of sharing script demos on the social media, not by me, but by user of my script, does help also. And I have written some tutorials, and I have a website which talk about ReaScript and showcase my service. So I know this does help a lot to help people find me. So if they type ReaScript custom development, for example, they will surely find my website. And I think maybe this interview can help.
Yeah, I'll definitely. I have one person who watches this channel, Gabrielle. Hi, if you're watching, was actually asked me for a script And I was like, oh, sure, that sounds easy. And like very soon as I went into it, I realized, well, at least it's not good for me. So maybe Gab really can hit up X-Raym to for sure for you it would be easy, or I think at least if something is not possible, you'd be able to give a definitive answer like this. There are some video things, right? I feel like mostly when I hit a limitation, it's a video based
Mhm.
situation. Like
Mm.
one thing I really want, if the devs are watching, is normally you can choose a new file. Like you can go to, you hit a command or control and F2. You can change the source media of any item to a new source. But it only works for audio. It doesn't work for video and pictures. And I would really love it to work for like PNG and GIFs and stuff like that. Yeah. So, but I think you would be the right person to tell people like what you're looking for is not possible, or like, oh yeah, it's totally doable. You know.
You make me think about one feature which could be really nice in Reaper, and there is a script workaround, but having this native will be just more easier. Is the ability to have video thumbnail preview on the video items. You know,
Yeah, like Pro Tools.
currently, yes, currently, when you import a video in Reaper, you only see the waveform on the timeline, and if you split, you don't know what frame it is just by looking at the range view. You have to move the edit cursor to see what shot it is, what frame it is. So of course, Reaper isn't a video editor, so but it will definitely help. I think a lot of people who are making video to music for video, for example, or things like that. And yes, it can be a very nice feature to have. But this is not for me directly because I'm not doing a video for Reaper at the moment. So maybe this will not be my top request. But let's keep that in mind in case I only have a one shot again for this. So I was telling you that a certain presence on YouTube can help people find me, and maybe a final way people can find me is just by talking to each other on some chats and things like that. I'm present, for example, on field recording Slack, in which there is a lot of Reaper members. I'm a co-admin of Reaper Professional Slack also. So there is often people here who are professionals who work for company and who have a very narrow timelines and who sometimes need a quick issue, quick solving to their issue. So you don't need a social media account or Facebook for that.
Yeah, that's really inspiring to hear actually, because I also recently well, I wanted to delete my Facebook and then realized, well, I run all my pages on there, so I'm kind of locked into the system. So now I made a fake profile, and I intend to,
Yes.
yeah.
But to be fair, if people on Facebook share my work here, make showcase, it will of course help me. Of course, I can't say that everything is bad, etc., etc. I can't say that no one has ever discovered my script via Facebook or any other social network, of course. I think that among all of these sources, the most important one is still the Cocos forum.
Do you have a TikTok, Arya?
I do have a TikTok. Yes, I have two.
What,
I made a few videos on TikTok too, but at one point I just realized I should just focus on YouTube. But I enjoy making like TikTok content because it's like short form and you can technically make it on your phone. Yeah,
what
but
do you do on TikTok? Do you do
like
some dance, some dance move?
in one of my videos, I play a synth for my cat, and my cat loves the sound of synths, like like a sine sweep, and she's like, "Whoa!" She loves it. I think she can watch for hours. I did other ones I talked about, like, oh, Spotify gives you this much money, and kind of
Yes.
debunking stuff people say about Spotify, and so very variety content, like
Uh,
whatever.
I think the cat dancing is really is
That's the
real TikTok material.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah, you put a yeah. I've been always wanting to integrate cats into
Yes.
my work. My first like orchestral scoring portfolio was just a bunch of cat videos, and I wrote like really dramatic scores on there. Cat was like walking under a thing, and it was like bah. Yeah.
I, I'm sure that if I have this kind of social network accounts, it will help a
Mm-hmm.
bit for my activity, but there is some downside, and maybe I will spend too much time filming
Yeah.
me making a dance move than scripting in this case.
Yeah. The whole like yeah, it's a whole new side kind of to your job, right? You gotta like
Yes,
gotta
it's
post on all the things, and then like all these they always change their formats and stuff. So like it's not like I can take the same video and put it on YouTube and then grab it and put it on Instagram. I gotta like change the format and the aspect ratio and all of that. So it becomes
yes,
and then responding to comments, responding to all that, which you're already doing on all these other places like the forums and the Discord
yes.
and the Slack. So yeah, it just takes so much time.
I think it will be too much distraction, and there is also some ethical concerns about some of these companies. So,
Absolutely.
um, uh, when going to Reaper, there is a certain philosophy, a certain ethics about what computer software should be, uh, and it's really something that seduces me in Reaper, in
Hmm.
Cocos, and maybe we will talk about that deeper later. But uh, it, Cocos is not a regular company for sure, and there is things in it that for which I am sensible.
Mm.
Speaking of sensitive things, I do have a question for you with this, circling back to the premium scripts. Do you ever have to look into copy protection? Because you're delivering scripts which are source files and it's easy to redistribute. So, do you have any kind of copy protection, or did you never run into this kind of problems with your clients? Or maybe you had to like obfuscate Lua code, which is something that one can do. I don't
Okay.
think many people do it, but
Uh,
it's possible.
when we in early 2015, we on other scripters starting to explore what the new scripting features of Reaper 5, which will be released a bit later on the year. And it's precisely the moment where a lot of scripts start to be public on the forum. And the moment where I met Eda as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he also made a lot of big scripts in the same time than me. And we had a lot of discussion at that time about how we could get some value about our work, because we spend a lot of time on it. and there wasn't any market or any, so we had to experiment. Here, for example, through this to have some kind of regular donation-based access.
Mm-hmm.
You pay regularly every 6 months, I think.
Or something.
Yes, a subscription, and you have access to all his script, and you can pay not high amount of money. It can be $5, for example, and you have access to all his script. He started by making a Patreon account for when he was scripting. Me, on my side, I tried a different approach. I wanted more like a pack. You pay for a set of script, but you pay only for them. And but no subscription, free update as long as I update them. And also the difference is that the source code is not encrypted at all. You also pay for the source. I consider this as a feature to allow the user to expand the script or take few function or to mod. And what I want to say about this, I rely on the client ethics to not share the code to everyone else when he got it, and I have to admit that no one did that. So
Great.
I think that trusting someone is a good way to gain their trust in return. So I don't want to encrypt my work, and I consider this open aspect as a feature more than a problem.
I also give you lots of credit because, I mean, obviously there's tons of amazing scripts out there, but you actually always have lots of comments on your scripts,
Yes.
which is really good for learning. Like for me, it's been so useful to just kind of read the comments. So I just and it also, like, sometimes I grab a script and I use it and I don't question it, but with all of your stuff, I really like the ability to just kind of learn from how they're written. So yeah,
Yes.
definitely a big feature.
In fact, this comes from the fact that I learned scripting by modding over people's scripts, like SPK 77, and this ability to mod a script brought a lot of diversity, a lot of new coders in the scene, and I wanted to contribute just in return. I mean, by writing codes with comments and things like that, I allow some people to start scripting maybe, or to see how it is made. So it comments help, but also variables which have clear names and which are not X, Y, or any one letter variables. It comments on the variable names choice also help me, of course, when I have to get back to my script. But sometimes I put indication for as if it was not for me. Maybe for future me, but maybe for a future someone else. And so I'm glad that this is helpful to you.
So helpful, yeah. So great. Somebody asked to tell us something in Lua language.
Print hi.
There you go.
How do you
Just
like
add
Lua?
prints to whatever gotta say.
How do you like Lua when compared to JavaScript that you mentioned you had some experience with, and
yes,
PHP, and even EEL2? And perhaps C++. Do you do C++ extensions for Reaper as well, or is it just mostly Reaper scripts in Lua?
I'm all about scripting. Extension is way more complex to less direct results, and I like the fact that scripting are like small puzzles. You have one specific task and you have to solve it in the most efficient way possible. And extension is more complex. It has a greater meaning. You have to, for example, when you see JS ReaScript API or ReimGUI, the GUI extension by Cephalion, it requires a way deeper knowledge in computer science and low-level programming than I have. So it's really it's another state of mind that I don't have yet. I'm all about scripting. Scripting is it's very what's the word for that? You can make mistake, but it will not give you a blue screen error. It can crash Reaper from time to time. It's possible, but it's not. It's easy to develop and to debug a script, and particularly in Reaper, you just press run and you see if it works or if it doesn't. That doesn't mean that everything it's in scripting is easy, of course, because there is you have to write some algorithm, you have to consider some Reaper specific issue or way of thinking, we can say. It's a different kind of problem. And so to answer your question, Leandro, EEL, I'm not a huge fan of this language.
So you don't do a lot of JS effects, I assume?
I don't do a lot of them. I did made some of them, mostly for MIDI, but not for audio. And what I don't like in EEL, which doesn't mean that EEL is bad. It just means that I don't have the state of mind for EEL. It is array table management, which is a bit complex, and strings operation. I think that I don't know. I just it's just simpler in Lua.
And how far do you go into the language? I mean, how far do you go into Lua? Do you use the more sophisticated features like meta tables and that sort of thing?
There is not tons of things in the Lua language itself, but I know some things I don't know. I know, for example, that I didn't use coroutine. If you see what are coroutines in Lua. Meta tables, I had to learn a bit of this because there is some a GFX framework which uses this. And with Mr. Limbic from Vordio, we made a Lua RPP file parser to be able to parse Reaper project file. And we had to design some class system with objects, and we had to use meta tables. But I will not say that I'm very fluent in these questions. So, in fact, yes, I don't know what is the more complex things in the language I have done.
But that just goes to show how far you can go without having to dive too deep into complex concepts. You can take relatively straightforward concepts very far. And that's my experience too. It's very rare that I have to reach for complicated stuff.
Yes, there isn't a lot of complexity in the language itself. Even file operation are not that complex. Okay. I know the most complicated Lua stuff I had to make was about waiver file parsing, because it's not like reading a text file. You have to read in hexadecimal or binary format to be able to make sense of the data. And this was particularly complex, and it's pretty rare that I have to inspect hexadecimal code to see what is wrong. But in this case, I had to, and it wasn't very pleasing. But in the end, it works. So I think that maybe I'm not the most advanced programmer, but I have enough patience and determination to go where I want to go.
And how far you can take Lua before it breaks? It seems like you are parsing audio and you are drawing waveforms, and these are things that require a bit of performance to do. So how far can you take Lua before it breaks?
You can take it very, very far. There is some script. I am surprised that they work so well. I spoke about a script which is able to draw waveforms of items on the project, and it just doesn't have any lag. And but there is a lot of points which are drawn every second because it is real-time refreshing. And yes, if the script is slow, it's often that there is a different logic to have, but there should be a way to.
If my script is slow, it's my fault.
Fast.
Is that what you're saying?
I don't say that, but maybe you have to consider the possibility. No, of course, there is some things which take some resource, of course, but it's often linked to how things are made in Reaper as well. We don't use pure Lua, we use Lua in Reaper to do operation on Reaper objects. So there is some consideration here. For example, there is some function which were a bit slow, and some extension brought to us some API, and now we can have them in Lua in a very, very efficient and fast version. So yes, having some extension made in C++ to share some API can make things faster. Yes, but I don't have any criticism for the Lua language itself, I would say.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great little language.
Yes, compared to JavaScript, PHP, for example, PHP is very PHP is kind of a complex beast because it is a language which is supposed to host other kind of language, because it has to return some HTML code. It can also return some JSON things. It can return CSS, etc. So it has a very a way more complex syntax than Lua, because there is a lot of characters, a lot of reserved symbols, etc. And JavaScript, what I like in JavaScript is object-based approach for everything. The extensive debugging possibilities. there is a JavaScript debugger in every browser, and they are very, very advanced. And there is a lot of native function also. So you can do a lot of things without having to write your own function. For example, in Lua, when you have a table with a key instead of integer, when you iterate this table, the key will not iterate in the same order every time you run the script. You maybe have faced this issue, Leandro. I see you are.
Yeah, the
Yes.
implementation of Lua reserves the right of reordering the internal representation of tables to make things faster. And the only way around that is if you really care about the order of keys, I think, as far as I know, is to have a table with indices, and then on each element you have a key value kind of thing. So you can be specific about the order.
Yes, I solved this in two different ways. One was to just extract the keys in a table and sort this table before doing a regular table iteration. And the second was to write a custom iterator function, which would, out of the box, iterate in the table in the right order, because it passes through function. But in the end, I think just extracting the key and sorting the table with the key is just simpler. So yes, but there is some things like that that may surprise you when you are starting Lua, because you run the scripts several times and it outputs different result every time.
So I guess that's one thing that you may like about JavaScript, because in JavaScript, when you create objects,
Yes.
it preserves the order of insertion, and even for things like maps and sets as well.
Yes, and indeed, I like that in JavaScript, that it is consistent in this regard. But it's things that you just have to know that it behaves like that, and there is a workaround around it.
So you mentioned something interesting. You mentioned how JavaScript has a great debugger, and in Lua, at least in Reaper, because as you mentioned, it depends on the host, but at least in Reaper, is there a better way of debugging besides just show console message and hoping for the best?
Yes, there is a Reaper IDE, of course.
Yeah, but in the Reaper IDE, you can edit text, but you cannot put breakpoints and watch variables as they come, right?
Okay. Yes. So I have seen some recent experimentation on the Reaper forum. There is different kind of experimentation. Like someone successfully made some kind of Lua debugger in VS Code, and you can run the Lua code from VS Code and send it to Reaper, for example. So you have all the debugging capabilities of VS Code, like a breakpoint, etc. I know some people use some kind of bridge again between Reaper and Zero Brain. Zero Brain is an IDE developed in Lua for Lua, and it has a lot of Lua specific feature as well.
And do you use these tools, or do you just go the old-fashioned way like I do? I just print messages using show console message, and I am old-fashioned that way, and it works. But do you use these other fancy tools?
I don't use Zero Brain. I do use VS Code for particular cases. I use this VS Code when I need to when it is a very complex script and I need quicker ways to go from a function to another, or to just have a simpler overview of the whole script. And I use VS Code when I need to check things across different files also, because it is a bit more handy to handle several files in a dedicated IDE than in ReaScript IDE, which doesn't have tabs, for example.
It doesn't. In
So-
JSFX it does. I didn't know. I don't use the built-in IDE a whole lot. I tend to use VS Code for editing, but in JSFX you can click on imports and it opens on a new tab.
You are right that there is tab in Reaper IDE, but it doesn't scan a whole directory.
Yeah.
You have to, because I work often at my repository level, it's handy to have the list of all the files and just click on the file to open it on another tab. This is also another approach that I have. I tend to make all my script self-contained for various reasons. Ease of debugging, ease of customization, ease of understanding, because you don't have to, everything is in there. And also ease of sharing, because there is still some people who share script manually. Or it's not the worst. The worst is pasting them on the Reaper forum directly in a forum post. But this happens a lot also. So it's nice when everything is self-contained. There is few exceptions, of course, which are scripts which has complex GUI. In this case, I think it's interesting to have one file for the core features and one file just for the GUI. And I have a script like that. Basically, you could plug several GUI framework if you want, because one file for GUI, one file for the function. So you can consider other GUI if you want. For example, writing one GUI in GFX, writing one GUI for ReaComics. It's complex for my English to pronounce GUI that much in a single sentence, but you get the idea. Self-contained as much as possible.
Somebody in the chat, Loveit, mentioned that it's the Maverick debugging tool that you were talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, and
yes.
link is below if anybody wants to check that out. Thank you, Loveit, for that. I was gonna ask you a non-scripting question, and that's because I see you have 1, 2, 3. I see 3 guitars and 1 bass maybe behind you. So tell us about some of the music projects and stuff that you got going on in your life.
There is a few other instruments that you don't see.
Okay.
There is a ukulele somewhere. Okay. And there is some drum pads also on the keyboard here. But yes, my main instruments are guitars. And bass also, because it's a fun instrument. There is one regular guitar, one which is in drop B, low tune for metal, nice, and one 8-string guitar, of course.
Nice. I got an 8-string as well.
Yes.
It's really hurted my hand though. I think I developed wrist problems because of the 8-string.
Because of you have to be careful with guitar. It's easy to spend a day on it without pauses. Okay. So my music. So yes, let's the big picture. I use Reaper initially because I wanted to make some artistic project, some personal project, and not for programming. I didn't start Reaper for coding. Coding was a way to solve things I wanted to make. creative things. And this leads me to make different kind of production, like audio fiction or music, but also video or podcast or anything you can imagine, which is very helpful, I think, for people who contact me, because I have experience in a lot of different aspects of Reaper. I know how to make a podcast in Reaper. I know how to make a sample library in Reaper, for example, for field editings and things like that. And I know how to make different kind of music, more MIDI based or more guitar. I don't know if you hear some Discord sounds. I think
That's right.
it's me, or is it?
No, we were just it may be also me or Leandro. We were just talking that again in 2 minutes we have to dip out and come back
Okay.
in because of
Well,
Zoom.
I will check if it's me. So recently I
It cannot be you.
started.
It cannot be you because you're not on the chat
cannot-
that we are chatting on.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, Leandro, to have come. Yes. Bon. So recently, I am making some kind of video series in which I made some metal guitar covers of songs
Nice.
I liked. It's kind of therapeutic, to express. On the it's good to be back to using Reaper in a creative way, and to enhance some other skills than just programming. So in this case, it is practicing guitar. I will not make you a demo. I am not that good.
Right. So right
Not
after the
that good
break,
yet.
we will have a demo. All right. We'll be right
Okay.
back, everyone.
Right.
We are beautiful. Teo is saying hi, Teo, by the way, that we should
Hi.
have entertainment during the breaks or commercial breaks. So
Commercial
this
breaks.
episode is brought to you by X-Raym scripts. Head over to
Hi.
xrame.com, buy those scripts, support your scripters.
Should I make a discount for people who are watching?
Use the code.
Use the code below.
Yeah, use the code below.
Use my affiliate links.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you should make me an affiliate link, but no, you should keep all the money because you're the real MVP. I'm always like, I'm always worried is not the right word, but I always feel like all the like scripting greats, one day there will be this company that will come and steal all of you. But
Is that
that's
such
good.
a bad thing? I mean, some
Yeah,
clients
it's
that I
great that
have,
people make
most
money.
clients that I have actually, most clients that reach out to me to do some scripting for them, they want to sponsor the work, but they want it to be open source or they want to share with the world because they benefited so much from the community. They just want to put some love out there. And there are, of course, a few clients who are doing something very specific that's not worth sharing, or maybe they have more a view of like, I am paying for this, so I want to have it. So what is it like for you? Do most clients want to share their things, or do most clients want to keep the things for themselves?
This is an interesting question because I think I have seen all possible cases. For example, there is some people who ask me for private script development, and then which say that every function that I wrote should not be reused anywhere. And you have to explain them that it's just not possible. It's just not how programming works. I mean, I understand copyrighting some software or some algorithm, but we are speaking about scripting. It's really minimalist.
Right.
It is a succession of problems solved in a rather I don't know. It doesn't worth any copywriting.
It's kind of like if somebody you can write somebody a song, but they can own the song, they can't own A minor. Like
I think it is if I was a car repairman and they asked me to repair their tire, and then we say don't repair any tire to anyone else in the future because you did this to me.
right.
It's just not how it works. I have put some disclaimers on my website about this aspect, which is I own my code. You will own my code as well because it will not be encrypted. You will be able to reuse it. But I can also reuse it and decide by myself if I want to share it for free. Because as we explained, sharing also works on time, and sometimes it doesn't worth it because it was too specific. Sometimes you have the feeling that you may build something even bigger from this, and the bigger thing can be interesting as a premium script, for example. Why not? Typically, imagine you are doing a script which alterate some Reaper items properties, and you have idea to make it also work on tracks, for example, and you have a big randomizer after that. Yes, you. So that's the deal I propose. Is I do what I want with my code. What matters is that you have the tools to solve your issue. In the early days, there is some cases where I didn't do that because I felt in a weak position for negotiation. And now, if someone doesn't agree with that, I just send him on the Reaper forum or to another scripter. I will put some kind of announce on one of the private server I am in, for example, the Discord server or one of the Slack, and say who is interested by that. It didn't happen since a long time, however. But I think it is just too frustrating to work with someone who consider that his not his work but mine should be reserved to him. I know that sometimes some people have clever ideas about how to solve some issue, but by definition, ideas are not under copyright laws. So I don't think that it's yes, I think it happened once when someone asked me something like it is my ID, don't reuse this, but he didn't realize that it was so specific that yes, I will not reuse your ID. In other the opposite of this is when people ask you to solve an issue, and they will tell you that you can reuse your code, you can sell it, so just make it way cheaper for me. This is the complete opposite of the previous one. And so you're like, but I'm not sure what I will do with your code. I spent a whole week of dev on it, and you are proposing me to pay 1/10 of what I would ask for this. And they're like, yeah, but it will be I will bring you thousands of clients, they will buy your things. It never happens.
Right.
I can assure you that if you write a script for someone, there will not be 1,000 people who will be interested in buying the script also.
That's the work for exposure pitch that you get.
Yes.
People are like, oh, score my film. Millions of people will see it. It's like millions of people will not see your movie because I can see your last movie was watched 100 times on YouTube. The numbers, right?
Yes. It is a bit the same for working for the visibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. So usually when I find that we are not aligned ethically, philosophically with some clients, I think it doesn't worth the trouble. So I prefer to decline politely right from the start, because negotiating took a lot of effort and isn't really satisfying, because clients are not always considering your point of view. And they seem to think that there is a tons of people buying script. It's not the case.
Right. Yeah.
It's not the case. So what I ask for is just to pay for the work I do, and I think that's the bare minimum. It is not something outrageous to ask. If I spend several days on a script, asking to be paid the equivalent of several days of work, I think it is fair.
Yeah.
And but you are right to express that there is two kinds of income. What we call passive incomes are when I sell a pack, and active incomes is when I have to make some development for someone in particular. But you have to consider that passive incomes is really just a marginal small bonus over the custom dev. Only custom development has the ability to really pay the bill. So I told you that Sondiron was my best overall client, and they have been extremely open on my conditions. It's like, yes, do what you want with your code, sell it, don't sell it, modify it, credit us or don't credit us. They don't really care about this, so because they have trust, and they know that it will not be a problem for their company. We have people working on the virtual instrument all the time. They are making their stuff. Yes.
Do you get some free instruments from Sound Iron too? Do they?
I didn't ask so far.
Okay.
But maybe at some point I have to admit that they have some really interesting choir library.
Mm.
But I didn't have to use a choir so far.
Mm.
Maybe at some point, if I feel a need for that.
Yeah, shout out to Sound Iron for funding X-Raym's work.
Yes.
I saw that they have like a new bundle going on their website, which I thought to check out, but I have a self-pact not to pay for too many like plugins or libraries or things for a while, just to see, if it can be done. And I mean, obviously it can be done.
Consider that maybe indirectly you are paying for me.
True. That's true.
But you can pay for me directly if you want. It's more direct.
Yeah.
But there is some kind of agreement between scripters which are deep in the community. I can share things sometimes to say thank to someone, for example, someone who made a GUI library. I can send him a link to the private pack because I couldn't have made this private pack without his library, for example. But we often face the case that the script the script that I made doesn't interest the other guy because he is working on totally different things. So yes.
Yeah, like Reaper is really versatile to like different groups of people, to the point where I mean, it's the same thing with tutorials. Sometimes I want to like share a tip and I'm like, really, you need to be doing like video that's going to also be a podcast, like video podcast, for this to be useful. Otherwise, like, I don't know, what's even the likeliness? Uh, or I realize like ripple editing is such a huge part of my life, and if you make music, you almost never ripple edit because like it's like
Yes.
fixed in time tracks. You're not gonna randomly cut a bit and like, yeah. So it's just interesting to think about stuff like that.
I think you just point one of my unsolvable feature requests that Amagalma try to solve this, but having this native will of course works better. It was ripple edit from edges of items.
Oh yeah, me and Leandro talked about this too.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you have to
Like
know
shuffle
that
mode in Pro Tools kind of workflow, right?
you have to know that there is a workaround which exists. But there is a lot of people who could benefit from this because it's kind of a basic feature of any video editing software, and in podcast also, and in audio fiction also. To explicit what is about it is when you drag an item edges and it move all the items after that. Currently in Reaper you have to first it's more complex. You can do that with edge dragging. You have to do that by selecting the items and moving them. Yes, you have to first extend your item edges and then move your items which are after. It's not as easy as in video editing software.
Yeah, my workaround for that has been so it's a custom action that like removes the space and does a crossfade. and moves the edit cursor a second before, so I can then like play it and just see kind of how it works. But basically, yeah, like my workaround is that it's a mouse modifier. So I command double click, or sorry, control double click on an item, and it runs the action. But yeah, like having I think Leandro, you call it like a magnetic timeline. I don't know if that's from a program.
That's a name that is given by Final Cut
Premiere?
Pro.
Oh, Final Cut. Okay, yeah. Or in or in Pro Tools they call it like shuffle mode. Yeah, it would be super nice if it's like a native and it's just as quick as dragging. Maybe a fourth kind of ripple editing mode, right?
So there is some kind of different editing paradigm which exist, and these are extremely complex to script because it involves a lot of things in the Reaper Arrange view, like managing mouse events, envelopes, items, marker. It's very complex to do in script. So yes, having these kind of things native can be really interesting, I guess. But I'm not sure that this will be my number one request. Just let's put this in a basket with other requests.
Mine changes based on like what I need at the moment, obviously, right? Like a lot of times. But negative project play rate would be fun to have. So you can do like turntable stuff, scratch.
Yes. I have to admit that this is also unscriptable. But you can make workarounds, but like putting the sample in a reassemblomatic instance, I think it has negative. But it in video editing software, when you have a rate envelope, you can go backward.
Negative, yeah.
And you can make your scratch like that, or your design like that. It can be interesting as well.
It would be fun.
Indeed.
Yeah, I just want to say something about the repo editing that Arya mentioned, how it's probably not very useful when making music. I was watching Andrew Huang the other day, and he had this video about 10 tips for Ableton Live, one of which was when you have this long recording and you want to chop out interesting bits. And there's this whole crazy workflow where he deletes the parts he doesn't want, and then he copies all the clips into the session view and then back into the timeline. Because when you do that in Ableton, it collapses the whole thing. And I was like, oh man, it's just repo editing. That's what it is. So there you go. Repo editing can be useful when you're doing this sort of, I guess, sound design.
Okay. Oh yeah, repo editing is a great feature. And I didn't have that when I came from Cubase, because we speak about my my programming history, but not about my sound history. This is another parallel story. But before Reaper, I was on Cubase since 2004, I guess. Wow. And when I discovered Reaper in 2013, Reaper editing was one of the selling points for me. For audio fiction in particular, because you have to adjust the dialogue lines, duration, and things like that. I wanted to say something about feature requests. Yes, you would be surprised how many of my feature requests are just simple stuff, like having an API function to be able to delete automation items based on a certain ID, because you can't delete automation items with an API function. You have to use to hack the main command delete selected automation items, and it is complicated because you have to undo the selection of automation items from the script rather than just say delete items number 8, for example.
Can you edit the chunk?
Things like that is which makes it complex, is that an automation items can be deleted if it is selected, only if the envelope tracks is visible also. And it's just a lot of code for something which could be just one single line of...
Could you do that by just editing the chunk?
Automation items are stored in... it's complex.
It could be on, like,
I don't want to talk about automation items.
They are
no, it's I don't remember how it is in the track chunk, but I know that their main properties like point, etc., are outside of the track chunk. And in the track chunk there is just instances reference. I'm not even sure that it is stored there. I don't remember. I try to forget.
It's interesting too, because they're special in that you can take, you can put an automation item on a volume envelope and then move that onto like a filter frequency amount, right? So it's like a shape. The value of the point may change, like
yes,
it changes the automation item to another parameter.
Yes,
that has another scale. Yeah.
Are
you involved in AA translator, by the way?
We talked a lot, and he asked me some script for his clients who needed to have a clean Reaper project before the conversion pass. So I have several pack which can help in this case. One thing I want to mention, because I know you like coding on the Lua, on the programming and stuff. I am currently, for my music video workflow, starting to code in Lua for DaVinci Resolve software. DaVinci Resolve has a Lua API. And when you come from Reaper, it is a bit of a shock for certain things. I mean, DaVinci Resolve is really advanced. In the last version, you have neural network to do some facial tracking, etc. But in the API, for example, there is no function to bring all the undo points into one. So, for example, if you make a script which modify the color of 1500 objects, you will have 1500 undo point in your undo list.
Cute.
And there is no prevent UI refresh, so you will see each one changing color on the UI is very, very slower than Reaper. So you really have time to see that it will change the color of all the objects. And there is some ultra basic function which I missed a lot. Like, for example, you can't change a clip name. I mean, changing name of an item in Reaper is one of the most common batch processing feature. You want to be able to rename items based on the track, based on the position, etc. And you can't do that in the DaVinci Resolve API. You can get the name of the clip, but you can't set them. And it's just, it seems so basic.
Reaper has definitely kind of ruined other programs for me, because I'm like, first of all, where's the like feature request? And also, like, what, your last update was like 2 months ago and you didn't even listen to your user base like almost at all?
Yes, I tried different software API, and sometimes it's just so complex. Like, I made a Photoshop script and changing the X and Y property of a layer is so much line of code it is. I don't understand why it requires so many lines of code, but it wasn't just a set position feature.
Right.
Because in fact, just for the story, the layer has an X and Y property, but if it is in transform mode, it has a different XY property, and this XY property needs a lot of trickery to get. I think it's like 60 line of code just to say this X, just to get this X and Y property. So it is a bit crazy, of course.
I didn't do that with Adobe stuff.
Yes.
Wow.
After Effects scripting was much more handy. There is a lot of script I made in Reaper, which are part of workflow which involves different software. So, for example, I made a script in Reaper which export the item notes as a CSV file, and one in After Effects which import each of line of the CSV as a text layer with in and out point. So I can quickly make my lyrics items in Reaper.
Nice.
Which has a very efficient GUI, responsive, etc. And just import that into After Effects.
That's so. Has anybody ever asked you to make a script to import comments from frame.io?
Not as far as I know, not as far as I remember. Comments from frame.io?
Yeah, it's like it's a website where you can...
for collaborative work, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of like on SoundCloud, you know how you can put a comment that's tied to a timestamp? This is like that, but for video. A lot of people use that. Wow, somebody... oh, by the way, somebody asked a question which I think I answered, but I'm going to ask you as well.
Okay.
Is there a script to create a function like the micro pitch function of Bitwig in the MIDI editor? And I pointed to MPL's isomorphic keyboard, which I think uses like the MIDI notes name plus the pitch bend to create microtones, but yeah.
This remind me another feature request which can't be solved and which is a bit sad, but you know, there is a lot of new MPE controllers or poly aftertouch controllers.
Right.
And when I see MIDI editor in different software, like in Bitwig, for example, I can only admit that it does that in a way more flawlessly way than Reaper MIDI editor, which is a bit too raw, too rough. I'm not sure about the word, but not as ergonomic for this kind of instrument workflow. I suspect that micro timing would be the case also. And I don't know how micro pitch shifting. I don't know how micro pitch shifting is made on Bitwig, so I can't. I have to see. On Reaper forum, there is, you know, I try to help a lot of people out there, and often people expect you to know what they have in mind.
I expect you to know everything.
Yes.
And, yeah.
And,
but I think that the way you do that is you set each node to a different channel, and then you can use the pitch bend on each node.
But you run out of channels before you run out of notes.
Well, if you have more than 16 notes pressed at one time, then yes.
This rarely happens.
Yeah, I think that's how most things are implemented, like the keyboards that have that kind of MPE stuff. That's how they implement that.
Yes, it's like that. I wrote a ReaComics recently about people asking for feature requests, but who don't put any screenshots or don't put any reference to
Yeah.
to a video on the. Yes, sometimes it's funny, and sometimes you don't have time to answer. So there is other people on the forum who will who can answer.
Yeah. I'm checking on the MPL's isomorphic keyboard. You can do microtonal stuff, and he does it with a mix. So he doesn't send to different channels. He just goes like, well, D1 is D, and then D half sharp is that plus 25 cents on the pitch bend. But yeah, I don't know. Well, because of the isomorphic keyboard, you have to control it with a mouse. You're never playing two notes. So I guess that's how that gets gotten around. Is that a word? I don't know.
I think that if someone want to do microtonal in Reaper, first they have to. Maybe the simpler solution would be to use VST synth, which has microtonal mapping built in. I don't have some in mind. I think, for example, maybe Pianotech for the piano, which is physical based synthesis, has a different type of scale, and each isn't restricted to normal scale. But I don't know the Bitwig specific implementation of this.
Yeah, check out the MPL thing though, Mr. Plugins. I think that should get you at least somewhere.
I know this script. I haven't used it, but I have the GUI in mind. Yes, if it is almost sure that under the hood, the Bitwig method uses properties from the MIDI definition,
like a CC of
but
some.
it's all about the GUI on the control.
Raymond, thank you so much for being with us. We're not ending it right here, but we're maybe giving a 5-minute warning for anybody to ask any final questions. But thank you so much for being with us. I'm a huge fan of all the stuff you do, ReaComics. I just noticed that you mix and mastered an album for your brother, so I'm
yes,
check that out. That's
Dying Dreams by Free Ops.
Yeah.
If you like metal and the new metal kind of vibe, a bit sad, you can love this album.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love metal. I love sad stuff, and I love new metal. Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, I was gonna ask you this: if like, what's your, and maybe you can say you haven't made this yet, but what's your masterpiece script that you made it and you're like, God, I'm so good. Like,
I know which one it is.
Okay, good.
It is half public, which means that there is a GUI-less version of the script, which is available in Premium. But I made a way more complex GUI-based stuff for Sondiron, and the public isn't ready yet for this. In fact, it is I have made a script which is able to detect the average pitch of an item, and it is I didn't code the pitch detection algorithm, but I code all the statistics algorithm, because you have to exclude some value, you have to bridge bridge a gap between values, you have to quantize certain value to certain scale, if you are, etc. And it is able to identify melodies and determine the scale of it. And when they are, for example, they have a 1 hour recording session of melodic phrases with the flute, for example. And the script will be able to determine each note which is present in each melodic phrases, and propose not only the closest scale, but all the possible scales with a certain probability, confidence. I don't know how to say that, but some, there will not be one single answer. It will be sorted by key and by
like which one is most likely.
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yes. And it has some other feature to restrict the analysis, to do advanced batch naming. It was weeks of works for this particular script.
Wow.
What is public currently is just the basis, so a script which will determine the overall pitch of the items, not the melodic part, not the scale naming, etc. But you have the pitch detection, pitch correction, and pitch correction envelope based also, and the pitch correction rate based. This is one of popular premium script, because for people who are making virtual instrument library, to be able to identify the pitch of 10,000 samples on a timeline in 1 minute it's worth it.
Yeah.
All right, so we have to take a quick break, and then we'll come back to say goodbye, okay?
Okay.
Even that? Okay, cool. I thought a quick goodbye, but all right, let's go, come back. Okay, so Raymond, before we let you go, I just want to ask people watching, if, who do you want us to have on next? I know lots of people have voted for White Tie. Of course, we want to have the awesome John Tidy on here, but let us know. Or, Raymond, do you have any suggestions for who's next?
I have many suggestions.
Great, let us know.
Of course, there is a Christian from ReaPack, because I think he changed the face of scripting at least twice with ReaPack and with re-ImGUI. So it can be very interesting. I think Joint ID, of course, from Reaper blog.
Absolutely.
I also think about Dan Voral, because he's an advanced Reaper user. He is not a community forum activist, but I think he has a certain deep knowledge of audio processing, and he chooses Reaper, so maybe he has some interesting things to say about this. There is also Heda, of course, because he make a lot of very good scripts, and he participates to the ReaScript boom. I can think we can call this like that. And Michael aussi, MPL, can be really interesting.
He was also worried about English.
Yes.
But, we're all friends here.
There is also
so I want to ask
Meo Ada Mespotin, for example. And I think the one which may be the scripter the of the year, which may be Bird, which is really making some next level stuff on the Reaper forum, and sharing all that for free, so it can be interesting as well.
Okay, so related to this, Arya asked you about your favorite script of your own. Now I want to ask you about your favorite script from someone else. And don't give us something obvious like Repack. Repack is great. Okay, but give us like a hidden gem that people don't know of, that people should know of.
It's funny because I don't use a lot of script over mine, but I do use some, of course. And I think one which really helped me a lot in audio fiction is Heda Loudness graph, because it allows to have a graph representation, a chart of the loudness per track. And in my cases, one track is one character, and it makes setting the volume, automating the volume of each dialogue line very handy. It makes mixing music against dialogue, against ambience, against sound effect easily. It's when I use this on a bus of the project. So you have the 4 charts like that, and you can really see where the music is too loud and things like that. So yes, I think as a script, this one saved me a lot of time, and it is very convenient to use. As the script of mine that I use the most is it's a simple thing, but it really saved my hand. Because just like you, Arya, I have some hand issue.
Yeah.
And I was playing some kind of real-time strategy game, and I realized that moving the view on the map was just putting the mouse cursor at the edge of the screen. Just like in Warcraft 3, for example, you just put the mouse at the edge and the view scroll. So I made this for the orange view.
Very nice.
I just have to put my mouse at the edge of the screen and it scroll. And if I press the shift key, it's move faster. And it really save a lot of clicking,
right?
A lot of pointing, and it avoid to do the hand mouse modifier. If you see which one it is, you click and you move. And sometimes I see people using it, and it's really tons of clicks just to move. So in a lot of scripts I make is just about reducing any mouse interaction. Nice. Because it's where it hurts, literally.
I'll tell you my hidden X-Raym script. The one that I use most often is just move by frame, which I use your scripts for.
Classic.
But okay, if you want, you have a big project, maybe a big podcast project, tons of video, tons of stuff like that. Well, not video. Okay, let's just go audio. You do X-Raym, glue items independently, then you clean up your project directory. Boom. Like 3 GB savings, 2 clicks. Easy.
One of my first script.
Wow, it's amazing. I just love that it like saves the name. It's so useful to have that. Yeah, I use that very, like basically every podcast project when it's over, and I have gotten rid of all the like just wasted space. I just do that and store it. Super nice.
I'm very glad to hear it. I don't know, Leandro, do you have a hidden X-Raym script?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't use Reaper all that much. Of course I do. I do use it a lot. I spend way more time using it than I should have. But anyway, yeah, I do want to echo the sentiment of the whole community that I learned a lot about scripting and a lot of about Lua and programming for Reaper from reading your scripts. They are really well documented and they are really well written, and they are always clever and come up with interesting ways of solving things. So I really appreciate all that. I do use the skeleton that you put up as the basis of many of my own scripts. And I always look at the resources you put out in all the places, like the documentation, your version of the ReaScript API documentation, as well as a lot of things on the ReTeam repository. Lots of great little gems for scripters in there. So yeah, thank you very much for everything that you did to the community. It was great having you. Thanks for accepting our invitation to be here with us.
Thank you for letting me speak about ReaScript so much. You have to understand that this never happened. My last interview was text-based and was a Reaper blog in 2015.
So you're saying that people don't recognize you on the street?
But if they know me, they recognize me. But usually they know me not for my script. They know me because we went to school together, for example.
You know how I feel? Like, you know, when you're reading a book and then you have your own faces for people, then you see like the movie adaptation and those faces are erased. So I always just saw you as your ReaComics version, and now that's been
yes. We haven't spoke about ReaComics and stuff, but yes, it's a whole thing. I'm kind of I think it's fun to have a comic dedicated to such specific subject.
Nice to have jokes that like just so few people will understand, and those who do are like, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I just realized that I didn't answer the question. So here is my favorite X-Raym hidden gem. There is this script that I use when I am producing videos for YouTube. You put markers and you give names to the markers, and then it exports in the format that you can paste on the description of the video to create chapters on YouTube. And it's one of those relatively straightforward things. I don't think that you spent as much time on this one as you spent on the pitch tracking thing. But sometimes the simplest things are the ones that resonate. So yeah, I love that one.
I think I spent maybe 15 minutes and it was for Reaper blog. And the funny things, this feature, being able to file export marker list as YouTube chapters for description, has been one of selling point of a new DaVinci Resolve version. Like it was branding. Now you can export, and I was like, just like,
yeah, I love when they do
15 minutes of work. It just doesn't deserve to be on the front page of the website.
I love when that happens, when like a program comes and advertises something Reaper has, like as this new groundbreaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it happens quite often, I have to admit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Pro Tools now is going, now you can edit your hotkeys for your actions, and everybody's like, get out of here.
Nice.
Yeah, good job.
Nice. Okay, so thank you for having me here. And I am very glad to see that my contribution can lead to other people's contribution. My contribution to the community isn't over. I'm still here, but it's very good to see new people joining the gang. And what I like the most is when people do things which I didn't think about, for which I wouldn't have make the leap, but like Burbird script, for example. I have to admit that it is very advanced, and if I had to make what it does, it would take weeks of development. And I'm very glad that Leandro has been able to make a lot of ReaScript tutorials which are more up to date than mine, because Reaper IDE wasn't as advanced when I started. Maybe I will make some new tutorial at some point, but for sure I will not have your JSFX level for a long time, because your knowledge of digital signal processing is way more advanced.
One thing that is coming up lately with some people that I talk to is ideas that cross the boundaries. So you would start by analyzing the audio in real time coming in, but then you would do something that needs scripts. Like you are listening to some audio and you want to send an event over the network. Something like that. So you would use JSFX to do the audio processing, and then use the global memory to talk to Reaper scripts, and then use the Reaper script to talk to the command line and do other things. So yeah, the possibilities are enticing. They are endless.
I think the last audio JSFX I tried to do, I wanted a big guitar tuner, and my favorite guitar tuner is in SS11X VST by Mercurial. This tuner is just the best guitar tuner I have ever tried. So it has a very nice smoothing, which really matches how I perceive the sound of a guitar string. Because a lot of guitar tuners, they just wobble a lot like that, but our ears doesn't perceive that wobbles at all. So I tried to make a GSFX, and I had some algorithm for make data smoothing and things like that, but it was just so too much EEL stuff, too much GSFX syntax. I just gave up because it didn't work at all.
Yeah, we haven't really done that yet, but I am planning on doing some pitch detection algorithms, probably starting with the classic YIN thing, and then the wiggle that you're talking about. Essentially, you want to do a low pass filter on the signal produced by the pitch detector. So Yeah, it can be a fun little thing to do.
You will show me. You will show me how we do that.
Yeah.
Maybe you know the. I think it's called Cook DSP GSFX framework. There is a Yin implementation in it.
That's the implementation that I'm planning on recreating for educational purposes. But yeah, that's the algorithm that most people use to do pitch detection on guitar tuners. And I'm planning on implementing it based on the paper, because it's always fun to read a paper and implement what's there. So coming up someday.
I want a polytuner, Leandro.
That's fun. Yeah.
Polytuner.
That would be fun.
Well, if you go on this road, we will talk about how Mercurial did some things, because if you can replicate this particular smoothing, it can be very interesting to have a tuner right in the TCP track control panel. You know, we can embed.
Beautiful.
Can embed a UI, so it could be nice to have a tuner just on the guitar track like that.
Fun
yeah.
stuff.
Can you embed Retune?
I think you can. Let me try it.
You can do that with Retune, but
can you? Because many VSCs you cannot. I mean, VSCs that are not by Cocos, you just can't. The API is sort of in development, and the person behind Voxengo is kind of talking to the developers, try to get spam as an embeddable thing, but it's not there yet. And
the tuner works, ReaTune works to embed.
Oh, great!
But you
can't change the window size and things like that. From the embedded one.
I think ReaTune GUI doesn't satisfy my need.
It's jumpy for sure. Yeah, it's like. Yeah.
Yes, you can smooth by expanding the window size.
Yeah.
But if you play guitar, just try the Mercurial tuner. You will see it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Okay, so is there any question left?
I don't think so. Yes, Reaper Tips also has a video on that for embedding, but I understand what you mean about ReaTune, especially with an 8-string guitar. It's a whole thing. But yeah, no more questions. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks again, Raymond. We will see you. We'll see you at some point. I'm moving, so you may not see much of me for a while, but yes, hopefully maybe do a couple of streams with Leandro before I leave.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone if you have watched until the end or even just the beginning. But if you were interested, it's good.
Yeah. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation again, and thanks everyone who's watching and asking questions here on the chat. Lovely people there. Bye everyone.
Bye. Cheers.